One of the things I really like about the passage from Gibran's The Prophet that opens this video is that it says something I've come to believe about the roles of reason and faith in my life. I find that faith and reason each serve me best if I allow myself to use them in tandem. I also like Gibran's seafaring metaphor, since sailors throughout time have used the stars to chart their course around the world. Many people chart the stars in a different way in order to steer the direction of their lives. As an unorthodox Christian who embraces mysticism, I thought I'd take a few moments to talk about how I see astrology in my spiritual worldview. Do the stars steer my rudder, or the planets operate my sails? Or do I see this ancient system of philosophy as just another possible source of insight worth considering as I navigate my own way forward in life? A mystery that might be seen in a different light today from the perspective of our modern science. Well, I don't remember how I first learned my sign. As a child, I used to glance at the daily horoscopes in the newspaper. Back then, astrology was just a curious bit of entertainment. But when I entered my period as a born-again Pentecostal, I soon learned my church took a very dim view of astrology. They were quite clear that fortune-telling was a trick of the devil that any faithful Christian should avoid. To this day, I think traces of that attitude still linger in a measure of healthy skepticism I have about how astrology is often used. My skepticism comes from a wariness of anything claiming to predict the future. One of the things that quantum mechanics has shown me is the world has an inherent randomness to it that makes predicting the future with any large degree of certainty or specificity something to distrust. Put simply, there are too many variables. I believe in free will, which I exercise hundreds of times each day in response to uncountable random events that happen around me. And I'm just one of several billion human beings all using their free will at the same time. That's just too much randomness for any hope of seeing a future that is constantly being reshaped. But I also believe, and frequently say, that we live in a random universe in which there are no coincidences. I began to see astrology differently when I was a freshman in college. A close friend I made that year was interested in mysticism. Through him, not only did I find out what a natal chart was and how much more there was to astrology than my sun sign, I first learned the details of my natal chart. He calculated the locations of the houses and planets corresponding to the time and place of my birth, and then he offered to interpret my chart. But since he already knew a lot about me, and being skeptical, I asked for the raw data instead. I took the information to the library and consulted several books, copying down verbatim what each piece of information in my chart was supposed to reveal about me. And then I was blown away. While there were stray indicators that were off the mark, most of what I read described my basic personality, good and bad, with eerie accuracy and significant detail. I started wondering if there might be something to this way of seeing our lives. While people may disagree about whether or not astrology is believable or bogus, it's a philosophy that eventually gave rise to the well-established science of astronomy. So to understand astrology, it helps to start with the ideas it shares with astronomy. The Earth isn't the center of the solar system, much less the universe. But since the Earth is where we live, it is the center of our observations about the universe. One of the first things to understand about astronomy is the celestial sphere. The celestial sphere is an imaginary sphere with the Earth at its very center. The celestial sphere is of no particular size, but for our purposes, we'll say it's just big enough to fit our entire solar system inside. If you trace the light coming from every observable star in the universe back toward the Earth and made a mark on the celestial sphere where that light crossed, you'd wind up with an image forming a great star map. Because of the Earth's rotation and its orbit around the Sun, the celestial sphere appears to turn through our seasons and across our sky. The Earth's orbit also makes it look as if the Sun travels against the backdrop of the celestial sphere. The imaginary path of the Sun that it seems to trace on the celestial sphere is called the ecliptic. The ecliptic is actually formed by the plane of the Earth's orbit around the Sun where it intersects with the celestial sphere. Within the celestial sphere is a band of star constellations defined by the region which is 9 degrees of arc, both above and below the ecliptic. This band of star constellations is called the Zodiac. 12 of the star constellations distributed around this band of the Zodiac form the basis of astrology. The 360 degrees around this band are divided into 12 equal segments of 30 degrees each, with one star constellation more or less positioned inside it. These are the 12 signs of the Zodiac, each named after the star constellation that occupies it. In effect, the Zodiac forms an alternate calendar that begins and ends at the vernal equinox in late March, starting with Aries, and ending the following year with the close of Pisces. Since the Zodiac is defined by the ecliptic, the Sun not only appears to travel against the celestial sphere due to our orbit, but also passes through each of the 12 zodiac signs. Your birthday corresponds to a date in this solar transit when the Sun is positioned between the Earth and one of the zodiac signs. That sign is therefore called your sun sign, which is the sign most people know as their zodiac sign. Because the orbits of the other planets in our solar system are relatively close to the same plane as the Earth's orbit, these other planets, as well as the Moon, also appear to travel against the backdrop of the 12 zodiac signs. In addition, there is a system of 12 houses in a ring, each house taking 30 degrees of the entire circle. Like the compass points north, south, east, and west, the 12 houses are oriented to a specific place and time of an event, such as your birth. The cusp of the first house is positioned at the eastern horizon and dips out of sight as it arcs around the Earth until it meets the cusp of the second house, and then the third, and so on. The western horizon marks the cusp between the 6th and 7th houses, with the 7th appearing above the horizon. The cusp between the 9th and 10th houses appears directly overhead. Finally, the 12th house reconnects with the starting cusp of the first house, back at the eastern horizon. Each of these houses also has a specific metaphysical meaning for a person or event. The exact locations of the planets, the Sun, the Moon, and the zodiac signs as observable in the sky, also placed within the system of houses at the precise time and place of your birth, can be mathematically charted. This chart is called your birth chart or natal chart. Not only do the locations of the constellations forming the signs of the zodiac and each of the planets have meanings in their chart, so do their relationships between each other, as well as their location within the system of 12 houses. In the philosophy of astrology, the complete natal chart is said to reveal a richly detailed description of your fundamental character, your gifts and your talents, your emotions, and how you are perceived by others. For example, your sun sign is said to describe your essential personality and core traits. Just as the sun is at the center of our solar system, shining its inner energy out in all directions, your sun sign describes what is at the center of your nature, and its traits are what you shine out from your innermost and truest self. My sun sign is Pisces, which is said accounts for deep emotions, adaptability, strong interest in spirituality, and heightened intuition. Your moon sign is said to reflect your emotional character, unconscious patterns of behavior, how you feel about things, and your experience of the past and how you relate to your memories. My moon sign is Taurus, which makes me romantic with deep affections, who doesn't give up on a relationship no matter how tough things get. It also says I have reliable instincts, and am very sentimental. A third sign of importance people often don't know about is their ascendant, or rising sign, named because that sign of the zodiac is the one that is rising on the eastern horizon as seen at the time and place of your birth. Your ascendant is said to reflect the qualities of your awakening consciousness, the things you learned in childhood, and how you project yourself in the world or how others see you. My ascendant is in Leo, which gives me an inclination to perform in some venue, and to project a sense of authority that can appear as arrogance if not handled carefully. It also accounts for great generosity and personal strength. How the various qualities associated with each planet, zodiac sign, and house came to be defined is beyond my knowledge. What interests me, more than how the narratives of astrology are developed, is whether they provide any measure of better understanding of our individual egos or have potentially useful insights that inform the free will journeys we're making in the theater of experience. In quantum mechanics, there is a curious phenomenon called entanglement that is the subject of a famous paradox. A pair of particles, such as a spawned electron-positron pair, speed away from their moment in creation at opposite directions at the speed of light, with traits such as spin that according to quantum mechanics don't exist in well-defined states, but which are required to be opposite of each other. It's as if both of them start out undecided, but eventually have to disagree. Measuring the spin of one half of the pair forces it into a known state. And somehow, instantaneously, the other particle knows, not just to assume a known state, but exactly the appropriate opposite state, no matter how far apart they are, across a room, the solar system, or the universe, suggesting something connects the two particles in a way affecting them both that works faster than the speed of light, which according to Einstein is impossible. Yet it happens. Einstein himself, who hated this idea and tried in vain to explain it away, called the phenomenon spooky action at a distance. Even in a system of science upon which so much of our everyday modern technology is built, there are phenomena in which things that should not be connected to each other are able to affect each other across tremendous distances. We are rapidly learning that everything in the universe is interconnected in ways we don't yet understand, according to principles we cannot articulate. My own belief is that the stars, planets, and their positions don't control our lives, but they are indicators, barometers if you will, of grand patterns within the interconnected universe that can be felt across unimaginable distances. What astrology may offer is convenient shorthand crafted by humans who knew nothing of shifting configurations of energies, gravitational effects, and quantum entanglements, all of which may be felt in your life's journey. The point is not to use the information to predict the unpredictable or negate the power of free will, but as a kind of metaphysical weather report that offers advice and insight as to things working within yourself that might be worth watching, thinking over, and being mindful of in the choices you make. As for the belief among many Christians that we should not look to the stars for divine guidance, I lovingly remind them that the birth of Christ was foretold and accompanied by a stellar omen. Astrology is a system of belief, and as I always say, the universe tends to reinforce the truth of whatever you believe. To paraphrase from Julius Caesar, our fate lies not in our stars, but in ourselves. Take the best advice you can from wherever you find it, but chart your own course. I'd love to know what you think about this video. You can write me at the email address on the screen. My thanks to God for this chance to share with you, and may the gifts of love, joy, peace, and enlightenment come to you all.